I'll start with my name and title again. Michael Fowler, F-O-W-L-E-R, and I'm the Chief Deputy of the Sheriff's Office. So thanks for coming today. I'm here to give you an update on the drowning incident that occurred in Henrietta on Saturday evening. As our initial press release went out on Sunday that laid out the basic elements of the incident, we've had several questions since then, both from the public and the media. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of concern and questions regarding the length of time that the victim was underwater and how long it took for her to be discovered. So the purpose today is for me to address those questions and try to answer that issue for the public. So on Saturday, March 23rd, 8-year-old Jamalith Kaba, along with her aunt and female cousins, checked into the Residence Inn in Henrietta, and their plan was to have a girls' night, celebrate some time together before a birthday party the next day. They had intentions of swimming, painting their nails, and just spending time together. They're all residents of Rochester. They reside in the Ford Street area of Cornhill, and they consisted of our 8-year-old victim, Jamalith, her 8-year-old cousin, a 10-year-old sister, a 2-year-old cousin, and their aunt, who was an adult and was supervising the group. After they checked into the hotel that evening, the aunt took the 4 of them to the pool for swim. According to the surveillance video that we've reviewed provided by the hotel, the group was the only ones using the pool at that time. The 3 older girls swam, and at one point they brought the 2-year-old into the water with them. That 2-year-old became cold after a period of time, so the aunt came over and removed the 2-year-old from the pool, took her over to a chair and began drying her off and paying attention to the 2-year-old while the other 3 swam in the pool. They all appeared to be enjoying themselves. There's no indication of any other activity going on. There's no indication of any suspicious activity. They were just enjoying themselves in the pool. Well, the adult aunt was dividing her attention between the 3 girls swimming and the 2-year-old on the pool deck. At about 8:30, Jamalith starts to swim further towards the deep end. She's by herself. The other 2 girls are in the shallow end playing. And she drifts further into the deep end where it reaches a depth of 5 foot of water. She can soon be seen having some difficulty. The video shows that she's struggling a little bit, and she's not able to attract the attention of the others. At about 8:35, Jamalith goes underwater and she's unable to surface again. Within the next 30 seconds, the surveillance video shows us that 15 other children entered the pool very shortly after Jamalith went under. They quickly got in the pool and started swimming. There were a few adults with them. They were all part of a separate group that was there for a completely different birthday party. So within just a matter of seconds, there were 18 children in that pool. And so the aunt was trying her best to keep track of both the 2-year-old and the girls in the water. Several times we can see her taking video of the girls. She's attempting to send it back to family members so that they can see the fun time that the girls are having, and it's clear that she has no idea that Jamalith is underwater. At about 8:46 p.m., another family of 4 comes into the pool, and the father walks around the pool, apparently in an effort to check it out for safety and things like that, and walking his family around the pool deck. And he looks into the deep end and sees what he believes to be a child on the bottom of the pool. He at first thinks that the child is playing a game, holding their breath, and then very soon you can see by the surveillance video that he realizes that something is terribly wrong. And he immediately jumps in the water and brings Jamalith up to the surface, attempts to do CPR, and sends another adult running out to the hotel front desk to call 911, which they do immediately. The Henrietta Fire Department, CHS ambulance, and deputies responded. Jamalith was transported to Strong Memorial Hospital, where they continued attempts to revive her for several minutes before they ultimately determined that she had passed. Our investigation immediately took off. As I've stated, there are several people involved in this, several witnesses, several children that were in the pool area, the hotel staff, the parents that are not at the hotel, family members that needed to be interviewed, so the investigators quickly started that. We called in our evidence technicians to do a thorough evidence processing of the pool and the areas, to include the hotel room that they already had rented for that night. And we also activated our victims assistance counselors to come out and assist us both at the hotel and at the hospital. Over these past few days, investigators and the evidence technicians have been working to piece together the timeline, the witness statements, and the video footage to make sure that everything is consistent and that we're getting the same information. Everyone that we have dealt with has been completely cooperative and supportive. But most certainly they're all devastated over the incident. That's one of the clues to us, is that the people involved are acting as we would expect them to be acting in this circumstance. Everything appears to be leaning towards a tragic accident. On the press release on Saturday night, I mentioned that the evidence technicians took water samples. This is out of an abundance of caution because some of the adults in the pool area commented that the pool appeared to be a little bit cloudy, the water being a little bit cloudier than normal. So we went that extra step and secured the evidence samples. We also had our technicians try to simulate some observation of the pool bottom and things like that. We actually put objects on the bottom of the pool to see how visible they would be from the surface. And everything was visible. We've cooperated with the Monroe County Health Department, who has the oversight for those pool inspections and the quality of the water. They're currently conducting their own investigation regarding that. We're sharing information with them. They have shared with us that the hotel was most recently inspected on March 5th, and they passed that inspection. So at this point, there's no reason to believe that there's anything out of the ordinary. The water was just a little bit cloudier than you would normally imagine. The standard of measure that's used in this case is, can you clearly see the drains on the bottom of the pool? And yes, you can. We photographed that to preserve that evidence, and we'll be continuing to cooperate with the health department going forward on that part of the investigation. So the hotel also has clearly posted no lifeguard on duty signs. They have a written copy of their pool rules and guidelines, which they share with all the guests. Those were provided to the family. And at this point in the investigation, we are tentatively classifying this as an accidental drowning, pending the final report from the medical examiner's office once the blood work has been returned from the lab. That will probably take some time. So at this point, we wanted to answer those questions that are circulating around the public and the media as far as where this is headed. And as I stated, this is being classified as an accidental drowning. Our thoughts and condolences are most certainly with Jamileth's family and friends at this time, as well as those civilians that so thankfully were there to help and try their best. Those first responders, the counselors, and the medical staff that all did everything we could ask of them in a very valiant attempt to save Jamileth's life. What questions can I answer?
You mentioned some blood work. Is that the aunt's blood work?
No, that's the child's blood work, yep. Our investigation revealed absolutely no indication of alcohol or drugs involved in this, and that certainly would be a factor that we would look at, and that helps us determine whether charges would be appropriate or not.
Do you anticipate any charges?
No. At this point, this, as I stated, this is going to be classified as an accidental drowning, and it's terribly tragic, and we do not feel that criminal charges are appropriate.
I mean, obviously, speaking about the tragedy of it, it seems like every time that we kind of come in contact with you, it's always something like that. Can we just maybe speak to the first responder side of it?
Yeah, it's certainly difficult. You know, we can't forget, here we have the sheriff's office doing a media release, but it's the fire department the EMS crews, the dispatchers that are involved that have to deal with this over the phone and try and give directions to a very hysterical person on the other end trying to save someone's life. There are so many avenues of professionals involved here, the counselors, the social workers at the hospital, the emergency staff, that repeatedly deal with this day in and day out. And we all take very great precautions and put a lot of procedures in place to try to lessen the impact, but at the end of the day, it still does take its toll. And we at the Sheriff's Office have started our peer support program. We also have the officer assistance program that we use, so we'll be following up with those measures.
Obviously, you mentioned, that they're at your own risk and a lifeguard on duty.
Right.
Can you speak to just, the lesson here? I mean,
Yeah,
families, they check in all
yep.
the times for a weekend of fun. They've got the pool to their.
I'm glad you asked, because it becomes very apparent when you watch the surveillance video that she was trying her best. There were a lot of people to watch. There were eventually a lot of kids in the pool. She was trying her best. So the message to the parents is it only takes a second. It only takes a second. And have some redundancy with 3 other children in the pool and eventually some other adults in there. It needs to be a shared effort because it's very difficult for one person to do with that many children in the pool.
As a parent, it's horrifying to hear you outline and describe what happened, and I'm assuming it's difficult for the people who were in that room, especially the man who pulled her from the pool and tried to help. Have you been in contact with him? Are there services for those kind of folks who come across such a, just by chance often, such a horrible scene, and sort of how they maneuver through that?
Yeah, that's a
peer
right.
mentors and things like that.
We have support groups and procedures in place, but there really aren't for those people in that circumstance. They would need to initiate it on their own or reach out for help, and often we'll try to reconnect with them, and it's a balance between providing our support and rehashing terrible memories, but we encourage them to seek out through either their own provider or we can certainly refer them to other agencies. But yeah, it was very clear that night that man that made an attempt to rescue her was very much bothered by the whole incident, and he's going to struggle with that also.
What were the age ranges of the 18 children that came in?
They were all approximately the same age, and it created some initial confusion for the deputies arriving on scene because they at first thought it was one large birthday party. And as you imagine, you're trying to interview a hysterical person at that time, and they tell you birthday party and the girls, and you start to put 2 and 2 together and assume that they're all related. So we had to really slow things down and help bring in those counselors and get them to relax and try to answer some questions for us as best they could. Especially in those instances, you really have to slow things down because the stories will develop and change as time goes on. And that initial report is not always the most accurate one, that's for sure.
And they were all in the shallow?
They were mixing around throughout the whole pool. So those 15 children that came in shortly thereafter quickly occupied the whole pool. They just apparently were not close enough and didn't recognize that she was at the bottom.
Were they younger children?
They were about the 8 to 12 age range. Any other questions? Okay, so this will be the last update on this case. The health department now handles the investigation of the pool, and pending any changes of information that we don't expect from the medical examiner's office, this will be the concluding press release on this.